You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Total Wellness Tuesday, I want to bring you the top 3 natural pain relievers that you've never heard of. And so the reason why I say you've never heard of these is because they don't get as much play in the media. So they're not as popular, they're not talked about as much, and the reason is they're not as common. So not as well studied in the United States, however, very well studied still in the research and the science, and used quite a bit overseas, especially in Ayurvedic medicine. So what I want to do today was just bring you those 3 products. They're all plant-based, and tell you how you can use them in different forms, whether it be powdered form, tea form, supplement form, and what they might be best used for. So most people during their lifetime, as in everyone, is going to go through some type of pain, right? Whether it's joint pain, muscle pain, headaches. We can even consider digestive pain, meaning stomach upset, acid reflux as a pain. And a lot of these things, the products I'm about to talk about, work with those specific conditions. So what I'd like to always do is talk first, why would someone have pain in the first place? Well, for the most part, pain is caused by inflammation. And we know, inflammation, we all need to work on inflammation and to squelch this inflammation inside of our bodies. But remember, inflammation is not a root cause to be worked on, meaning that inflammation is still a symptom. I know we talk about in natural health about reducing inflammation, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with reducing inflammation in the short term, but I'm not okay with reducing inflammation if all we're going to do is keep working on reducing inflammation for the sake of reducing inflammation, because all I'm doing then is treating a symptom. And when I treat symptoms, if I squelch that symptom, I don't know if a person is getting better over time. So what I like to do in the beginning is I figure out what the underlying root cause is. And then at the same time as treating the underlying root cause, reversing whatever the dis-ease is, I'll then work on inflammation at the same time. Because I know then as I wean the person off a natural anti-inflammatory, I have also worked on the underlying root cause at the same time, which again is not inflammation. It's the thing that causes the inflammation. And then at the same time, that person will no longer have that pain as they're coming off the anti-inflammatory. So hopefully that makes sense. And it's a lot healthier than swallowing non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs such as Advil, ibuprofen. And we know now, more and more studies showing the chance of heart attack and stroke go through the roof when you use those, not only on a consistent basis, but even just a one-time use of those. So especially with, I should say, pre-existing cardiovascular-based conditions, we know NSAIDs as well also destroy the microbiome, the good bacteria in your gut, and they also hurt the kidneys, whereas Tylenol will then hurt the liver. So, and shut down glutathione, shut down detoxification. There's no good one to use. So what we can look to is, let's look to these plant-based medicines that have been around for 6,000 plus years, and let's look at those in terms of working as a temporary, meaning like not forever, anti-inflammatory. Okay. So we're not going to go into all the reasons why inflammation comes about, but they mainly come about because of an injury. So whether it's an injury in the gym, sports, whatever it might be. Stress. When the body's stressed, it starts to constrict. It starts to produce more cortisol. It starts to push towards more pro-inflammatory states. And in that time, we get more inflammation. And then also, inflammation is also caused as a healing response. Believe it or not, inflammation allows for faster healing. If you have surgery, you don't want to be swallowing Motrin and anti-inflammatories around the clock. And the reason is you actually slow the healing process. So a client of mine just had hip surgery. During his hip surgery, or I should say after his hip surgery, told not to take Advil, not to take ibuprofen. It's a smart recommendation. The reason is that would actually hurt the muscle adhesions to actually making that joint heal and work better. And the last part of why inflammation might come about, why you might feel this pain, is actually an immune-based reaction. So specific immune-based reactions I'm thinking about right now in my mind specifically would be like rheumatoid arthritis, really common one, immune-based reaction that causes this pain. You can call it a mistake by the immune system. I'm not going to call it a mistake by the immune system. We're seeing too much lately showing that the body has this RA, has these autoimmune-based issues in general, such as Hashimoto's rheumatoid arthritis, because of intestinal permeability, so increased intestinal permeability, aka leaky gut, as well as this bacteria and these pathogens getting into cells. And then our immune system, yes, getting aggressive, no doubt about it, but that's because it's trying to remove these toxins from our cells. We live in a very toxic environment, and I can't tell you enough that we have to do our part to keep eliminating these toxicities from our body, as well as sealing up our gut. So now we've talked about that. You already know about the turmeric. You know about a lot of the gingers and those great things. They get a lot of press in the media. Believe me, everything just gets jumped on. It becomes popular because of a major study. Someone has maybe a product they're pushing. It gets a lot of press. What I want to bring you now are three of my favorites. And they're three of my favorites because they go back quite a bit, right? Thousands of years these products have been used. But also, these are some that we used when I was on one of my first internships in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka and India, very similar. What we're practicing are Ayurvedic forms of medicine. The Ayurveda practice in Sri Lanka is just slightly different. It's a very southern-based form of India-based Ayurvedic medicine, which is slightly different than the north because they had somewhat different herbs, not greatly different, but somewhat different. And the same goes for Sri Lanka as well. So when I was over there and we were actually creating our own medicines, meaning we were boiling them down with oil or we were rubbing them, basically crushing down the herbs, and we're turning them into resins and using ghee and raw honey to roll them up into little balls because we use that instead of capsules. Really, really amazing experience. One thing that we used quite a bit, and one thing you'll see if you ever study Ayurvedic medicine, is this thing called holy basil. So that's what the first one we want to talk about. Holy basil would be, let me try to see if I can give a comparison to what we're thinking about right now in this day of ages, is like magnesium. You think of like magnesium as almost like the panacea now. It's just so great for everything, right? You can do so many things with it. Well, in Ayurvedic medicine, holy basil, it's also called tulsi. Tulsi still is known as not only the anti-inflammatory, the antioxidant, the thing used for anti-aging. So on a daily basis, a lot of the Ayurvedic, the Vedas would recommend Triphala, which is a gentle laxative, but it also has a lot more other properties. I'm not going to talk about it today right now. And they would recommend this thing, holy basil. So every day you would take these as part of an anti-aging based protocol. Now, the interesting thing about holy basil or tulsi I believe it's actually, so I'm just trying to use my memory. It was called the incomparable one. I believe that was the translation. And what that means is that it is an antifungal. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It has antibacterial properties. So it does so many things in the body to not only help with modulate inflammation, but it does it through an adaptogenic response. That means this: when your body gets very stressed, it has to first calm itself down before it can hope to lower inflammatory levels. That's why when I work with people, and I just talk in general on this podcast, you can't get fully well. And this was my biggest thing for the longest time. I couldn't get fully well until I just learned how to relax, until I could take it down a notch, stop being such the perfectionist, stop being such the, time is of the essence, I have to get this done, all of those things. So what it does is, along with ashwagandha, along with a lot of other great herbs, like ashwagandha and holy basil, the two of them together is such a powerful adaptogen to really lower stress, calm the body down. And in turn, there's some great research. Let me just read you just a little bit of the research. So holy basil functions as an adaptogen, enhancing the body's natural response to physical and emotional stress. Adaptogenic herbs do not alter mood, but rather they help the body function optimally during times of stress. Multiple scientific studies examining the property of Ocimum sanctum, which is just this Latin-based terms. And again, my non-English skills in terms of pronunciation could be a lot improved, have found that supplementation with various extracts of holy basil decrease stress hormone levels, namely cortisol in particular. Okay, last one. Lower levels of corticosteroid are associated with improved mental clarity and memory, and long-term can reduce the risk of age-related mental disorders. And by that, they're meaning they're studying dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, mainly the first two that I mentioned. And they're doing that because they're finding that, again, another great product, Cortisol Manager. When you're able to lower cortisol, you don't burn out as many brain cells. I mean, plain and simple, that's how it works. So a product like Cortisol Manager, which I use a lot in my practice, helps. It has phosphatidylserine in it, and it has ashwagandha. So it has like the best of functional medicine, which is how I practice, and the best of Ayurvedic or ancient-based medicine. Really, really amazing product. So holy basil, what's the easiest way to do it? You can get it as a capsule, no doubt about it. But also, we use teas in our practice as well. I don't recommend teas as a supplement necessarily, but we just have them for sale for people. We give them out free if you do massage, and like it's just a nice thing to have, I think. And we use Organic India. Traditional Medicinals is another great brand. So with Organic India, they have a whole section of just what's called Tulsi teas. And then the Tulsi tea will then be mixed with things like ginger. So you can get just amazing benefits. And if you want to have a cup of Tulsi tea every day, you can get a lot of these great benefits first thing in the morning or mid-afternoon. A really great time for that as well, since it's not a stimulant. Okay, the second one on our list today is called Devil's Claw. Now, again, not a lot of people have heard of Devil's Claw. It has another more American name, which is called Grapple Plant. And so it got its name because of its hook-like quality with the edges of the stems and the fruit that hangs. So this in particular, Devil's Claw, which hardly ever used by itself in a supplement, but usually part of a lot of different compounded supplements as well, has really powerful anti-inflammatory effects for arthritis, but also headaches, fever, tendinitis, migraine, and lower back. So right now, the University of Maryland, so they've actually published several studies on Devil's Claw in relation to osteoarthritis. So a little different, which the next product I'm about to talk about, a little bit better maybe with rheumatoid arthritis. But if you have osteoarthritis, this could be the product for you. Or if you have lower back pain and you're used to taking some type of Advil or ibuprofen, some type of NSAID. And so the reason is that the research right now is showing that Devil's Claw works as well as some of the slower acting drugs for osteoarthritis and pain relievers such as NSAIDs right now on the market. And this was done with knee and hip-based pain. So especially if you have knee and hip-based pain, especially with arthritis. And this was a 16-week treatment. So do keep in mind, you can't just pop any of these things and expect the pain to go away the next day. That's not how natural supplements work. Do please keep that in mind, that we're looking at a 3 to 4 week minimum. Even using something like glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, a product like that, look for the longer-term effects over 4 to 6 weeks. Most of the studies show that the benefits really start to come with longer term use. So please do keep that in mind. Devil Claw is usually used in a powder or in a capsule form. And this last one, which I'm excited to bring you because I've been using a lot more in my practice. The reason is this. This is one of those products that has wide-ranging effects. Okay. And this is also one when I work with people with digestive-based issues as well as joint-based issues, autoimmune-based issues. I really like this product. It's called Boswellia, and it's in Ayurvedic medicine, or translated to American medicine or US, is called Indian frankincense. Okay, so a form of frankincense. There are different species within this plant itself, but it comes from the frankincense plant. But what you're actually getting in the Boswellia, and so inside of our Boston practice, in our spa shower room, we have this poster, or it's a framed, poster, I guess you would say, and it shows probably around 50 different herbs from Ayurvedic medicine, and it gives the Ayurvedic term for it, the Latin term for it, and the English term for it. So what we can see there are all the different uses, and it's pretty amazing. It shows what they look like. So with the resin here, and this is typically always taken inside of a capsule, but with Boswellia, this has been used really forever within Ayurvedic medicine, and they've been using it for arthritic-based conditions, muscle pain, joint pain, pain, IBS, ulcerative colitis, really spasms, asthma, allergies. I'll use this with allergies all the time as well. That and bromelain works really, really fantastically well. And so the really interesting thing about this product is this. So we talked about holy basil, amazing adaptogen. Allows you to lower stress, and if you're too high in stress, it brings you down, and if you're too low in energy, it helps to boost you back up. I mean, really amazing stuff. So the other interesting thing, though, about boswellia, which is different, is that in Ayurvedic medicine, they talk about heating and cooling. So a lot of things that are heating would increase what's called pitta, and things that are cooling may squelch pitta. Now, the reason why that matters, pitta body type or the mesomorph body type, why that's important is because any one of us can exhibit pitta-based qualities, and the heat means inflammation. Well, the interesting thing about boswellia is that it can go either way. It's an adaptogen in its own right. It's very different. So it's interesting that it works by cooling the heat, cooling the inflammation, and as needed, it increases heat in terms of circulation. So you get improved circulation, which is going to improve blood flow, and it's going to help repair tissues. And then you get the cooling, which is the anti-inflammatory effect. It's one of the only well-studied herbs that we know of that does that. Now, its actions, like most herbs right now, we can't figure out. We want to, believe me, they're trying to patent all of these things as drugs, but you don't care and you shouldn't care because you get the benefits from the plant, which is always the best way to do it. In this case, the resin. So not only does the research show amazing effectiveness for all of these things, but the research is also showing right now that, direct quote, boswellia appears to be quite anti-cancer, that appears to be more anti-proliferative rather than apoptotic, the latter meaning to induce regulated cell death, since it's a potent inhibitor of angiogenesis and cell invasiveness. So that's science speak. Let me translate that for you, because that most likely means nothing to you, nor should it. So what it means is this, that we're looking at a lot of things like products that I talked about in my last show on olive oil, or other things like the larger amounts of, let's say, turmeric or something like that, which can cause more of an apoptosis in the cell. So what does that mean? When you create apoptosis in a cell, it signals a cell, like a cancer cell, to essentially to destroy itself, to kill itself, to break down. And it gets that signal by other immune cells within our body. So it's called signaled cell death. And all cells have that because all cells have to turn over so that we don't get this anabolic-based state of tumor-based growth. So that's not how boswellia works, which is unlike a lot of other things that cause this cell death, which again, in this case would be a good thing for tumor-based cells. But what happens is it doesn't allow for the cancer cell to grow in the first place. That's pretty interesting. So as a natural anti-cancer use, using something like boswellia for longer term use may have some clinical benefits. So these are things that I'm looking forward to seeing more and more research on, but one that I'm a big fan of. And there's a company called Ayush Herbs. Not a lot of people know about Ayush Herbs, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. Really quality products, and they are dedicated to bringing Ayurvedic medicine to the forefront in terms of functional medicine, because they provide the research. So meaning like they don't do the research themselves, but they show how each one in particular does work. And that is something that I do like. The product that I'm going to link up on the show notes page, I do want to make sure I get this to you. So this is episode 438. So you just go to stephencabral.com/438. And I'm going to make sure that it's up here by the time that this show pops up live today. And so why would I link up this product? Here's why. Boswellia, amazing product. I believe in synergies. So hardly ever will you see me say, okay, take this single vitamin or take this single herb. Why? We have so many great synergistic based products. This one right here contains ginger. You already heard me talk about how amazing product ginger is as an anti-inflammatory, digestive, anti-cancer, you name it. But this product also contains winter cherry. I didn't even talk about it, but cherry in its own right not only is good for gout, it's good for uric acid-based pains as well. And our favorite, of course, we have turmeric in there. Turmeric is just one of those things that's a great product. Does this have a lot of turmeric in this product? No, it's more like what I call a dusting, a little sprinkle. But it's nice to have it in there. So you're not going to get the clinical benefit from the turmeric per se, but it works as a great synergy. What you're going to get are the great benefits from the boswellia, ginger, winter cherry. I'll link this product up by Ayush Herbs. Just Great company, great products, good people. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. So thank you for tuning in. Do appreciate each and every one of your listens. And as always, if this show could help out anyone else, please do feel free to pass it along to them. Take care, everyone. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.